BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports, including MLB, golf, plus the NBA and NHL playoffs. Up-to-date stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. I've been on vacation for a week. What did I miss? Let's discuss on Bleav in Astros.
What's up, Astros fans?
This game is turned upside down!
Welcome to the Bleav in Astros podcast with your hosts, sports writer Jeff Balke and former pitcher and Astros broadcaster Mike Stanton. Now, direct from H-Town, here's Balke and Stanton.
What is up, Astros fans? Welcome to episode 114 of the Bleav in Astros podcast. I'm Jeff Balke alongside my co-host Mike Stanton. Mike, how are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. You know, the weather is so beautiful down here in Houston. The humidity is only like 98%. It's perfect, especially for the young ladies who have hair that has a tendency to curl.
That is right. If you have
which that is my wife.
If you have even slightly, and listen, maybe people out there haven't seen this before. Maybe I'll pop a photo up on the video version of this. I used to have really long hair. I was a musician for a long time.
That's right. You're a musician.
I had really long hair.
You had the long hair for the ladies.
And that's right. That's right. Oh yeah. Let me tell you, the ladies loved it. And mine was curly. So when it got humid, I was just like all the ladies out there. I'm get me to a hair salon stat. So I feel for them. Well, I've been away for a little bit. I was on vacation. One of the places I went, Motown, which was outstanding. I mean, going to the main studio in Motown where they recorded like all the big hits is like, it's pretty spectacular. But while I was gone, there was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly. Let's start with Jose Abreu because it's really the biggest story the Astros have had. Not in the young season, but certainly in the last month. Option to Palm Springs. Kudos to him for agreeing to do it. He didn't have any options. Obviously, he had to agree to do it. The Astros did it. I mean, is this the end of Jose Abreu? Never mind for the Astros. Is this potentially the end of his career?
I mean, only time will tell. We can't really say. I hope not. I hope he gets to come back. I hope he gets to have some success. And when his career does end, I hope it ends on his terms. See, I did not get to do that. It was kind of pulled out from under me. And it took me a while to get over that before I got into coaching. Then I got into broadcasting and here we are. But it's a tough situation. And, to be sent down to West Palm Beach, you go, well, why would you send him all the way down to, well, you can't even say rookie ball because there is no rookie ball anymore. This is just their facility down there. Right. They do play some games with some other teams in that area. But the reason they sent him down there is because if you send him to AA, you send him to AAA, he can get 4 at-bats a game. That's it. He can't get any more than that. You send him down to West Palm Beach, he can get 8, 9, 10. He can get as many at-bats as he wants. He can lead off every single inning because they do play kind of games, but they're more simulated games. And when you have somebody coming down like Abreu, then he can kind of do whatever they need him to do to get him prepared to go back. So the thing is, we don't know what's going on in his life. We don't know, and it's none of our business as far as the personal side of it. People need to understand this isn't just these guys aren't robots. They're not just baseball players. They're actually human beings first. And, human beings, we have troubles. Baseball players have troubles just like everybody else does. And so you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And like I said, I don't want to know because it's none of my business. But I think we all need to remember that when, we're booing someone or something like that, because we just really don't know where they are in their life.
Yeah, it's just a tough situation. What was it for you when, like you said, you didn't go quietly or willingly, really? What was the hardest adjustment you had to make once that happened?
Just accepting it. Just accepting that, it was probably over. And, I actually, the last time I got released when I was under contract was with the Cincinnati Reds in 2007. I was actually under contract for 2008. Actually, that's what it was. It was spring training 2008. And I even had an option for 2009. And last day of spring training, I got released, and it was a shock. I did not see it coming. They did not inform me that they were trying to trade me or anything.
Wow.
I actually had a conversation with Dick Pohl, who was our pitching coach at the time, because I threw like 3 straight outings in the minor leagues. And I threw the ball well in the minor leagues, but the people didn't want to see what I could do in the minor leagues. But no one ever told me that it was even contemplated. I was working on some stuff. I was working on a changeup. I was working on throwing more 2-seam fastballs. So I wasn't really concerned with what the results were. Well, ends up I should have been more concerned with what the results were. Wow. And so they released me under contract. Yes, I still got paid. It's not nearly as good as it sounds because I wanted to play.
Sure.
I came back in 2009, went to spring training with the Cubs, had a knee issue in the middle of spring training, and then that was it. But the hardest part was just accepting that, wait, what? I'm not going to pitch, because I pitched pretty well for them the year before. I had a high ERA, but I was notorious for 3 or 4 big blow up games. Mm-hmm. And I did the same thing that year, which gave me the high ERA. But I threw the ball well. I was even closing for them part of the time. So it was just one of those things. And the acceptance of hitting rock bottom and figuring out, well, what are we going to do from here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's got to be. It's tough for people to make changes, no matter what their walk of life.
Yeah, nobody likes change.
Nobody wants that. But when it's A, your livelihood, and B, the thing you've dreamt about doing for your whole life, a dream that literally came true for you, for you and many others.
No doubt.
That's a tough one, man. It's a tough one to hang up the cleats. So in his absence, Jon Singleton has been, dare we say it, good. Which is something. I mean, the other night there were 4 lefties in the Astros lineup, and I'm like, what team is this? I don't remember the last time the Astros put 4 lefties in the lineup. Singleton's one of them, and he's been pretty good, particularly as of late. I don't know if any of us saw this coming, but it's at least good timing.
Well, one thing we know, there's 2 things we know about Jon Singleton. First, he has a real idea what the strike zone is. I mean,
yes,
you watched the game last night, game 1 in the Yankee series. He walked 3 times, and he did a nice job of laying off some pitches, some really good pitches from Luis Gil. Big power arm. He didn't go fishing, ends up walking 3 times. The other thing we know is he's got big power. We've seen that. The problem he had is consistency of contact, and what we've seen a much higher quality of at-bats. We've seen him make contact. We've seen him get base hits and drive in some runs. Yeah, the sample size is small. It's a week or 10 days, but from what they've been getting from Abreu and anybody else they put at first base, through the first month of the season, it's a huge difference. And I think that he's embraced the opportunity that he's had, and has made, pretty much the most of it right now.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, he's, his slash line is as good as almost anybody on the team at the moment. So you can't argue too much with that level of success. Now, the Astros had a 3-3 homestand, which is better than it could have been. But the back end of the bullpen continues to be a problem. And look, I'm going to be honest, this really surprises me. Like, I did not, and I don't know if anybody saw coming the 5+ ERA from Abreu, Presley, and Hader. Look, I could accept maybe seeing Presley struggle a little bit, given that, he's a little bit older and, he's had a few struggles here and there. I was not expecting to see Bryan Abreu not look good, and I was definitely not expecting to see Hader give up, what is it? He's given up as many runs this year as he gave up all of last year. That's just shocking.
Well, you need to go in deeper, and you need to look at some of the analytics to see how they've actually been pitching. Abreu, he's been hit or miss. He's had some good games. There's some games he looks like old Bryan Abreu. He's still looking for that consistency. Ryan Presley on the other side, he's giving up runs, he's giving up hits, but if you look at, exit velocity, expecting batting average, expected ERA, all that kind of stuff, the numbers are relatively low. he's just run into, I hate to say it, he's run into some bad luck that, he gets the soft contact, but it falls in for a hit. And then Josh Hader, you could say the same thing, other than the one game that he really got hit, gave up 4 or 5 hits and only got, I think, 1 out a few weeks ago. Other than that, what has he been bitten by? He's been bitten by the long ball. He makes a mistake and somebody has been able to hit the ball with some elevation and the ball's gone out of the ballpark. And I don't want to say that, baseball gods are against them but when things are going well, you throw the ball down the middle and they pop it up. When things aren't going well, you throw the ball down the middle and it gets hit hard. Sometimes it goes out of the ballpark. And that's just the nature of the beast that we call Major League Baseball. It's as fans, it's one of the things we love. As fans, it's one of the things we hate. But you just have to take it for what it is. They got to just keep working, put it behind them, as a short leverage reliever. Sometimes you get the bear. Sometimes the bear gets you. Yeah. But you got to come to the ballpark the next day mentally prepared to go out and do your job and put whatever's happened, good or bad, behind you.
It's just kind of incredible to have it all happening simultaneously. Abreu, it looks like to me, especially like in his last outing, he just wasn't getting on top of the ball when he was throwing a slider. And so when you do that, and you know how it is, Mike, in baseball,
it's all lateral movement. And that's what they call the sweeper. And I've never been a big fan of it. Right. I think 2 years ago, it was a very effective pitch because it seemed like everybody in the league all of a sudden wanted this sweeping breaking ball. They were getting the movement and the hitters hadn't made the adjustment on it. I think the hitters have made the adjustment now. I think they did it last year. I think you're seeing it much more this year, that sweeping. And as a pitching coach, one of the reasons I have an issue with the sweeper is that the bat that the hitters are using are much longer than they are wide. And what I mean by that is you got a sweeping breaking ball. They've got a lot more bat to be able to make contact with, right, where, it's only, 3 and 2 3/4 inches wide, whatever is the width of the bat. Right. I like things that are going through horizontal planes. Right. So, it's, more perpendicular movement, another way to say it. But, to each their own. But right. I think it's been, it's been a revelation to see a lot of hitters now are laying off the sweeper. Yeah, just simply because if it starts in the zone, it doesn't end to the zone. If you're trying to throw it for a strike, it doesn't start in the zone. Whereas if you have a little bit more vertical movement, now all of a sudden there's a lot more deception in that pitch. Yeah, and you make a really good point about that too, because the other thing about the sweeper is that if you miss with a sweeper, you're going to miss with, it's going to be an ugly miss. If you miss with one or two things, it's going to be well off the plate in a non-factor pitch, or right, it's going to be down the middle. Right. And major league hitters, and one of the things that you look at, it's in the sweepers, and this is one of the soapboxes that I get on with the pitchers that I work with, and anybody else that wants to talk about it, is that what I call elevation control. Okay. In this day and age where everybody is throwing north and south, you watch the hitters, watch the pitches that are going to be hit tonight. Pick the game. It doesn't matter who's pitching. It doesn't matter what's happening. The guys that are hitting the ball hard, the pitches, the location, the elevation of the pitch is usually between mid-thigh and the belly button. You go above the belly button, you're okay. You go below mid-thigh, you're okay. But it doesn't matter whether it's a breaking ball, doesn't matter or a fastball, it doesn't matter if it's on a corner or right down the middle. When you're in that middle of the zone height-wise, the hitters are going to put a lot better pass on the ball. Yeah, and that's something we've seen create some real trouble for pitchers. I mean, speaking of that, we have some, new injuries and players returning. They just mentioned that JP France, I guess, is now, he's going to be shoulder missing soreness a while, which I don't know what the hell a while means. Joe Espada said yesterday that it doesn't seem to be too severe, but he's being shut down. Yeah. And, they're not going to shut him down for a day or two. I would think it's going to be at least 3 or 4 days, probably more like a week. Right. And then he'll have to ramp back up if everything is still okay. Yeah. What I was just talking about elevation control, I think that's a big problem with what JP France is going through. Yeah, he's got the injury now. See, your dog agrees with me.
He does. Jackson is dead serious about that elevation control.
That if you go back and watch the pitches that JP has been hit, gosh, every one of them seemed to be, kind of belt high.
They really were. And you could see that too. And look, he's not been in the lineup now, which is, unfortunate for him. And now, having to go on the injured list. At least the Astros do have more pitchers. I mean, Framber Valdez is back. Christian Javier is very close to returning. Jose Urquidy.
It looks like this weekend. He'll start this weekend in Detroit.
Jose Urquidy's just maybe a few weeks out, which is something. So, I mean, they have I don't want to say the cavalry, but at least it's something, especially when you look at, what happened to Justin Verlander yesterday? He was saying after the game, he just doesn't know what's going wrong. And that's not a good sign.
Well, you have to love first that he is a pro's pro.
Right.
And what I mean by that is he stands there and he answers the questions. I love that since he's come back from the Tommy John, we've seen a softer JV. We haven't seen not nearly as combative with the media, not nearly as kind of angry all the time. Even last night at the end of the interview, he smiled. That was something you never got from JV, 6-8 years ago. So it's good to see that, but it's also good to see him be candid with us and say, I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. But he was missing last night was, he had 3 walks, but he only had 2 strikeouts. And it's not just the strikeouts that could be the potential problem. It's the overall swing and miss. He threw 97 pitches. He only had 6 swing and misses on all of the pitches that he threw yesterday. And so what does that mean? Man, that just means there's a lot of foul balls, a lot of extra pitches. And he just hasn't been able to get, even those in-count swing and misses, much less the swing and misses at the end of the count. Yeah,
that feels a little bit like what's been happening in Hunter Brown too. Just not getting the swing and miss. Early in the season, we are early in the season. What am I saying? But earlier in the season, we saw a lot more.
Yeah, you're still in vacation mode. It's okay. We got it.
Fair. A little bit, but like, a month ago when we were first really getting rolling, there were problems with walks. I mean, we saw the walk numbers going up. Now we're not seeing the walks as high, but we're seeing, like you said, that swing and miss ratio is just not as high as it probably needs to be. Is there anything we can attribute that to specifically, or is it just something these guys have to work out themselves?
Well, JV in particular for last night, you have to remember this is kind of what the Yankees do. That they're similar to the Astros in they don't really expand the strike zone a whole lot. You have to put the ball in the zone. They're very good at fouling pitches off. Yeah, I mean they do strike out, but it's a different approach that lineup has, just like it's a different approach that the Astros lineup have. The Astros only struck out 5 times last night.
I know.
I mean, there was not a whole lot of swing and miss in that game, but what does that mean? There's a lot of weak contact put in play. And, for JV last night, there was some weak contact. There were some balls that were hit pretty hard. The home run that Giancarlo Stanton hit to left field was an absolute missile. I don't like talking exit velocity because I think we use it too much as an industry. But when you get north of 110, now you've hit the ball hard.
That's
when you get close to 120, get the grown men off the infield because that was just a little bit under 119 miles an hour.
Yeah,
that is a nuke shot.
That's the kind of stuff. Like I agree with you. I think exit velo is used too much, but when it's like that, then it's like. Whoo,
That's when I'll talk about it. You get north of 115. Okay, now we're talking about something special. But somebody hitting a home run at 103. Right. It goes 375 feet with a 33-degree launch angle.
Yep.
I mean that's just gibberish. That's just
numbers. It's still a home run, but it's not as fun.
Yeah,
it's not as fun.
It's special because it's a home run, but it wasn't a special home run.
Right. That's a really good way of putting it. When you see those moonshots that end up 3 rows deep, it's like, okay, that was pretty cool. But when you see somebody hit it off the signage on the third deck, 45
degree. Yeah, they're they're not long. They're majestic home runs. Exactly. They've got hang time, all that good stuff. But It's just this is the data era. This is the information era. So
yeah, well, they say chicks dig the long ball. So all right, let's talk a little bit about a few hitters. A couple of guys that are having, one that's having a hold down season so far, and that's Alex Bregman. This is the worst start of a guy who's a regularly slow starting guy. Right. This is his worst slow start since really his rookie season. He's had recently, he's like, oh, I got good contact on the ball and stuff. It's like, okay. I mean, this is a situation with I'm shocked by it, not because I'm shocked that he's having a slow start, or like you said, sometimes when it rains, it pours with baseball, but I'm surprised because this is his free agent year. And if you're a guy who has the potential to sign 8, 9, 10 years, $300 million or whatever Alex Bregman and his agent think he might get.
Yeah.
This is not the start you want.
It's not. And, even though Alex has been a great Houston Astro, he always seems to be, he's number 2 because it's kind of like a slam to himself because he was the number 2 pick overall,
right.
Stuff like that he plays with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean his confidence is high, and confidence goes up and down, as quickly sometimes as one pitch. But definitely one game. And, right now you can see him as he walks off. He does a really good job of staying pretty stoic, but you can see that there's turmoil. He is just like JV was talking about in the game after the game last night, that it's time for him to go back to work. It's time for him to figure some things out. Alex is in the same place. Mm-hmm. I mean, Alex is better than a 200 hitter. I don't think there's anybody that would dispute that, but it's just one of those things that, once that snowball gets rolling down the hill, it's very hard to stop. And right now the confidence just isn't there.
Yes. I mean, 1 home run. I mean, it's just a very difficult season for him. And look, I know this guy's going to snap out of it, but when you look back and at your last, 25 or 30 at bats, you have 2 infield singles and your name is Jordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
That is an anomaly that we are not used to seeing.
No, but I think what we're seeing from, across Major League Baseball is that, and the Astros are to blame for this. Brent Strom and Josh Miller are to blame for this, that all of a sudden the rest of the league are pitching the Astros like the Astros have been pitching the rest of the league through this great run that they've been on. And what does that mean? That means that, if you're a fastball hitter, you may get one, but that's about all you're going to get. And that's what the Astros have always done. Attack with the breaking ball and expand with the breaking ball and all that good stuff. This is a copycat league. And, the Astros have proven over the years that their approach to pitching and how they attack hitters works. So guess what? Everybody else is going to do the same thing. That's kind of what's happened. I mean, it was a couple years ago that there were more off-speed pitches thrown in Major League Baseball than fastballs for the first time in Major League Baseball history.
Right.
And, I mean, you're seeing guys, JV back in the day, I mean, he was a 63, 65% fastball usage guy. I mean, now he's still a fastball usage guy, but he's at 50%.
That's wild.
He's still doing the same thing using the curveball, using the slider. He mixed in a few changeups last night. So that's just the nature of the sport now. And the reason, it's a pretty simple formula. Fastballs get hit. Breaking balls don't.
Right. It's really interesting. And it's funny that you say that this is really what, the Astros have done throughout this run, and now other teams are doing it. How do you beat that? I mean, if everyone is doing it, eventually people got to score runs, right?
Sure.
So what do the Astros have to do to beat that?
Well, the crazy thing about the numbers that if you look deeper into the numbers, the Astros are hitting the ball. Now, I mean, they only got a couple hits last night, but 3 hits last night. Okay. Heel was very, very good. Mm-hmm. And the Yankees have a very good bullpen also. That was just one game. But the Astros their batting average is fine. Their slugging percentage is fine. Their on base percent, they've gotten on base, but they just haven't been able to do it with runners in scoring position.
Right.
So that's really the aberration here. That's the one that you look at and you kind of scratch your head and you can't really put your finger on it. The guys that are hitting, without runners in scoring position, all of a sudden you put a guy on second base, you can't figure out, how to put the ball in play or how to get that base hit. Listen, if it were that easy, if it was an easy answer, even if it was a complex answer and they had figured it out, they would have already fixed it.
Right. That is exactly right. No kidding. There are a couple of guys who are, first of all, let me mention Joey Loperfido. We had talked about him previously. It's a great story to see him get his chance, even if it is based on some Astros struggles. He's doing exactly what I think most people who had paid attention to him were expecting. He's a very good hitter. He makes contact. He strikes out a lot. If he can even just modify those strikeout numbers even just a little, improve that on base percentage just a little bit, and continue to make contact, look, he's going to be a success at this level. He's shown that he can do that. And defensively, like everybody's like, let's play him at first base. Maybe not. Like that kid has been very good defensively in the outfield.
Yeah, he has been. And you can tell he's an athlete. He's got good speed. He can throw the ball. He can do everything you ask. But yeah, the contact rate needs to go up. There's just no doubt about that. So, but hopefully as he gets, his feet grounded in Major League Baseball, that will occur, he's got big power. So you look at him and you go, okay, what comes with big power? Well, there's going to be some swing and miss, but if he can figure out how to not necessarily just cut down on the swing per se, but just maybe cut down on the effort a little bit, let the ball travel a little bit more, then the hit tool is going to increase.
Yeah, that's a good point. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Mauricio Dubon, who, by the way, should be in the lineup kind of every night at this point. I mean, the guy can hit. He's just plain out. No BS. The guy hits. He's one of the best hitters on the team. I think he is the best clutch hitter on the team just by the numbers. You've got to have that guy in the lineup more often, even if it means you're sitting other guys down to do it or moving somebody in the DH role to do it. He's hitting so well right now. You shouldn't take him out.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, and I don't think he'll really suffer from overexposure. I've been teammates with guys that, gets a couple at bats a week, they kill the ball. You give him, you give him 3 or 4 games in a row, he gets exposed. That's not Mauricio Dubon because he goes to the opposite field so well, and it's just a tough situation for Joe Espada. You got your starters out there; those are the guys that are supposed to be doing the heavy lifting. You're not going to take Jose out. He swung the bat too well, or not very often. You're not going to take Jeremy Pena out. Same thing. Bregman at third base is just so good defensively that, even with the struggles, he wants to play every day. I mean, where does that leave? That leaves center field. Because you're not going to take Tucker out of right, and you're not going to take Yordan out of left, at least not very often. So it's a tough situation. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but not an easy job for Joe Espada to figure out where those at-bats are going to come from.
No, it's not. It's just in a time like this when you're trying to win games, you might just have to kind of bite the bullet and play with the hot hand for a little while. Yeah, exactly. All right, so the Astros are still in Brooklyn. Mike, you're the Yankees.
Bronx. They're in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, pardon me. I like saying Brooklyn.
Wrong borough.
Wrong borough. I know. I was just in Brooklyn a year ago, and I went to the Bronx to see Yankee Stadium, which is a fascinating. By the way, if you've never been, the outside of Yankee Stadium is kind of weird. It looks like a jail or something. I mean, it's like completely sealed in and enclosed.
It's the Gothic. Well, old Yankee Stadium was the same way.
Yeah, it's just
now it's marble. It's very pretty.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But it's not the classic ballpark.
No,
but I think that's kind of the
inviting.
Look, the whole the whole Gothic look.
Yeah,
they want it to be intimidating.
Right, and it is.
And it's not as intimidating as it was as the old stadium.
Right,
the old stadium had the ghost. This place doesn't have ghosts.
That's right. So what do we got? Okay, so what do we have to see from the Astros against? We know the Yankees are very good. The Yankees have perennially been very good. They hit the ball well. They've gotten better pitching this year despite some of the injuries and struggles they've had on that front. but you know them as well as you know the Astros probably. What do the Astros have to do to turn around a series against a team like this on their home field?
They just have to keep grinding it out. I mean, there's no one thing you can put your finger on. The pitching matchup tonight favors the Yankees. Carlos Rodon has thrown the ball exceptionally well. And we've seen Carlos at his best. I've said this for years. He made a start late in the season a couple years ago. Might be the best starting pitcher I ever saw. I mean, the stuff that was coming out of his hand was incredible. Last year he was bad. This year he's figured it out, and he's thrown the ball well for the Yankees. And, you got Spencer Arrighetti going for the Astros, who last time out, he threw the ball pretty well. But, the one thing he's got going for him this year, or in this start against the Yankees tonight, is that the Yankees have never seen him. And that is a plus. Veteran hitters do not like, and we've seen this from the Astros. Oh, yeah. Veteran hitters do not like to see pitchers they don't have a track record against. Now, there's only one way to get that track record, and that's to get those at-bats. But how many times have we seen, rookie pitchers just come up and shove against the Astros? Veteran hitters they don't know where the arm slot is. They don't know what the breaking ball looks at. You can look at all the data in the video you want. It's not the same as standing in there with your bat in the batter's box trying to hit a guy. And, by the time you find a release point, you might be in your third at bat.
No. And it's funny you say that, because I don't know if it was yesterday or if it's today or if it's tomorrow, that the anniversary of the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game against the Astros, which is a perfect example. Guy that Astros,
I always, that post game, once he did it, I always was like, man, dude, be excited. He had no idea what he had done. He knew he had a lot of strikeouts, but he didn't know that the strikeout record was 20. He didn't know he had 20. So I always thought that was kind of, because the catcher comes up and jumps on him and everybody's in it. He's kind of like, what?
That is the era of non-data and analytics. That's the big difference between those. I mean, the thing I want to see from the Astros personally, and you can tell me if you're seeing this too. A friend of mine mentioned this to me, and I kind of understand where this is coming from. The Astros do look like they don't quite have that, as some of the Texans guys like to say, that dog in them this year. And we've seen that in years past. And some of that, you could say leadership off the field. We don't have the guys like Maldonado, and we don't have the Carlos Correas. But some of it just looks like as a team, they don't look like they have that edge right now.
When you struggle. When you lose games late, when you're not hitting, when you're not pitching, you always look flat. You always look like you don't care. That is not the case. We know these guys intimately. We know these guys well. They are trying as hard as they possibly can. That's just the nature of the sport. When a hitter goes up there and swings at the first pitch and pops out, we all go, why is he swinging at the first pitch? When the next at bat, he goes up there, swings at the first pitch, and it's a double off the wall. Why doesn't he swing at the first pitch all the time? That is the nature of being a fanatic, of being a fan. That's our prerogative. But that doesn't mean the dudes aren't putting in their work. Heck, you know what? They may be working too hard because of that confidence issue I was talking about earlier.
And that's a good point. For me, it just you can tell, like you said it about Bregman, that confidence, you kind of see it. There's not that, there just isn't that swag. Yeah,
you don't see the swag.
Exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. And that's something, obviously winning produces that,
Sure.
Maybe they need a rain delay. We can do like Bull Durham and turn on the sprinklers at Yankee Stadium, make them run around the bases.
We got a natural disaster.
Exactly. Get them a nice rain delay in there and see if they can't pick things up. All right, Mike, what else are you looking for in the Astros coming up this week? I mean, it doesn't get any easier for them going forward.
No. Detroit's pretty good. They're going from New York to Detroit, and Detroit's actually playing pretty good baseball.
They are playing pretty good baseball right now. Why can't they play the White Sox and the A's every week?
Well, actually, that's one. I think there's many reasons why they've struggled. One of them has been strength of schedule.
Yeah, I know.
And, what do you usually do? You ask an old-time baseball guy, how do you want to approach that? There's a lot of things. You want to win series. You want to be 500 on the road and, win games at home. There's a whole lot of cliches. But one of the other ones is, you want to take care of business against the teams you're supposed to. That's the teams under 500, and try and just split with the good teams.
Yeah.
And so, they've had more than their fair share of the good teams. Haven't played great baseball, have been bit by the luck bug a few different times. But I think last night, I'll have to check the records, but I think that was their 12th loss after leading a game. That's tough.
Man, that is brutal. You just, I know when I was gone, I remember looking and seeing they were 1-10 in 1-run games and being like, oof. Yeah, you're not going to win that way. Well, let's, hopefully a little luck tonight. Maybe the balls start to bounce their way. I do believe very strongly in the law of averages. I do believe in regression and progression to the mean. Most of the time, with certain exceptions, I think with guys like Jose Abreu, obviously there's something wrong. Maybe he's just older. But with a lot of guys, I do see that will eventually happen. The question for the Astros is, will it happen soon enough? Because we are getting to the point in the year at 12-23 where I saw somebody put the stat up. No team that made the postseason has won fewer than 22 of their first 50 games. Yeah. That means they have to win 10 in a row.
There's another old saying, it's getting late early. That's kind of what's happening here. The one thing we've always said is you got to make sure you don't dig the hole. Well, they've dug the hole.
Yeah, they sure have.
Now they got to figure out a way to fight their way out of it.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, as always. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll be back with a fresh pod probably end of the week, if not certainly next week. And you can always catch all of our podcasts on Apple and Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. Give us a follow at Bleav in Astros. I'm at Jeff Balke. Mike is at Mike Stanton 29. Correct. And you can find us all over social media because that is who we are. That is the world we live in. It's the social media world.
For sure.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Go Astros.